Mabel Smith Douglas was a woman ahead of her time. She was the first dean to the New Jersey College of Women at Rutgers, which was later renamed Douglas College in her honor. And although Mabel's career was flourishing, her personal life was filled with tragedy. Her husband died suddenly in 1917, and then 6 years later, her son took his own life. And this left Mabel so grief-stricken that she institutionalized herself and stayed there for a full year. When Mabel was released, her daughter decided to take her on a trip to the family's summer home on Lake Placid, hoping that the natural beauty of the area would help heal her mother's mental health. On September 21st, 1933, the ladies were packing up and getting ready to head back home to New Jersey. But then Mabel decided to go on one last outing on her paddle boat, out onto the lake, and she was never seen alive again. During the initial search for Mabel, they did find her boat washed up on shore, but couldn't get any clues from it. And there were many rumors about what could have possibly happened to Mabel, but nothing was substantial enough to figure out what happened to her. On September 15th, 1963, a couple of divers were exploring the area near a place called Pulpit Rock. They descended to a depth of 100 feet, and there discovered what they initially thought was a mannequin. It was an eerie and surreal sight for the divers, and when they pulled on the arm of this mannequin, the arm detached completely, and that's when they realized that this was a real human body. The divers then noticed something even more ominous, that the body had a rope tied around her neck, and this rope was attached to an anchor. So one of the divers decided to go back up to the surface and mark the spot where the body was, so that they could go get help and find her again. Now the young diver that waded down in the water with her became very disturbed by her appearance, because it looked like she had maybe only been down there for a couple minutes. So he decided to cut her free from the rope and slowly made his way up to the surface with her. The other divers saw him coming up with her and came to help, but to their horror, they realized that the closer that they got to the surface, the more that this body started to fall apart. Limbs started to break away and sink to the bottom of the lake. Her face literally disintegrated in front of them, and then her head fell completely off. So, needless to say, there was not much left of the body by the time they got her out of the water. When investigators got there, it did not take them long to figure out that this was the body of Mabel Douglas, who at that time was the only missing person from Lake Placid to have never been found. And even more depressingly, by this time, Mabel didn't have any living family left to claim her, and she was buried in Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery, next to her husband and children. So Mabel's death was declared an accidental drowning, but many believe that she took her own life after having suffered so much tragedy. So how is it that Mabel's body spent decades underneath the surface of Lake Placid and still looked like she had only been down there for just a few minutes? Her body had been preserved in that lake because the conditions were just right, that it basically turned her body into soap, giving her that waxy plastic look that made the divers originally think that she was a mannequin. The tragic tale of Mabel Douglas has led to many stories about people seeing her spirit around Pulpit Rock, where her body was found. Many boaters and campers around the site have claimed to see the apparition of a woman hovering above the water, where Mabel met her end at the bottom of that cold lake.